All right, welcome, guys. I'm Brian. This is Alpha Vitality and Wellness. It's a new channel, guys. So tune in, follow along, and just join the team basically, because it's the next level of creator creation dynamic, right? That's what we're seeing already, and that's what this channel is going to also help amplify and kind of catapult forward. Uh, Growth was really what it is, guys. We want to grow in the experience of being a human being on this planet, plane, whatever. We'll get into reality in the nature of reality. But right now, the important thing is to remember that having to do with that is that we're going to deal with reality being external and internal reflections. So let's go into the internal reality first, because that's where we're going to start. Um, and that's where all ancient cultures started. That's where all life starts, right? If you understand uh, how metaphor works, how symbols work. And yeah, we'll leave it at that for right now, because one of the ways I'm going to try to organize this all for you guys is like, through using some of the channels, some of the branding, also taking it to larger platforms, um, and really that's just the beginning. And that's what I can give you guys right now, and that's also a part of it, right? This whole thing, like I've been here watching YouTube for a long time, guys, but now's really I think it's one of the best times for somebody like myself who's born in 1985 and watched the whole game play out as far as technology going from, you know, fax machines and beepers, and even kind of really before that, the last little cusp of, really being off the Wi-Fi, off the grid, so to speak, is just still natural, and then boom into the progression of where it's at now, and then even where the asymptotic, so-called curve, if I said that right, is going to go up, right? The exponential point of sort of no return, where that's kind of what's happening. AI's teaching AI, and AI has been happening for a while, guys. It's been around. It's roughly 60 years, actually. Ray Kurzweil writes about that. Some people say the singularity has already happened, or it's going to happen. I think that just kind of depends on how you view it. In some ways, it really has already happened, right? Because you could say the progression is set in motion. So almost what's going to stop that progression, there's not really much, right? Because it's already happening so fast, exponentially fast, and also, um, you know, there's a sort of horizon where we lose a sense of organic matter, or perhaps in some sense we relearn the reality of matter, of atomic structure, of energy at the most basic level. So one of the analogies I've always made is that, because I'm a musician, um, that everything is really related, obviously, to, you hear the word vibes, you hear the word frequency. We could get into that esoteric side, but what the point being is that there's an actual real meaning to that, in terms of, like, how things function, how things work, how electromagnetism works, how light works, how sound works, and they all happen to be related to a wave form. Um, so exploring the particle wave relation is fundamental to the modern time, because that's actually us exploring, sort of the left brain, right brain, you could say, the masculine and feminine polarities. Um, we'll go again. I want to go deeper into some of this stuff on my own. We're also going to use, I do want to show people how to use AI, because I think there's a way you can use it. And I think most people, until they figure that out, are just gonna be either it's using them, it's using you, um, or you're just missing out, right? But in some way, shape, or form, or you're just not getting the maximum out of it. But in some way, shape, or form, that's what I was getting at earlier. That I think for a while now, technology has actually been steering the narrative more than people realize, is more aware than people realize. Awareness is more about, again, electromagnetism. We're tapping into consciousness, going into the negative counter space, the dielectric space of life. Uh, so we're starting to get into, again, the esoterics or the deep sort of physics, quantum physics, um, and biomagnetics, bioelectrics, all that good stuff. That's going to go into, again, how we can make better, healthier choices in our life, and also just maximize, your health, your wellness, even just the simplest things in life, like breathing, like projecting your energy in yourself and your voice, who you want the world to relate to you as, rather than staying trapped in a confined sense of reality, energy, presence, and just, not to make it cliche, right? The whole matrix concept. Um, and that's significant in the terms of like technology. Uh, every, you could say, generation, era, every time has its own sort of expression, language, just like we see, different places, right? They have their own language. They have, even within the context of certain places, you'll find there's different types of dialects or different types of lexicons in terms of like people's grasp of language, variety of language, ability to speak multiple languages, ability to look deeper into the etymological principles of language, i.e., sound, phonetics, um, yada yada, right? Let's get yada yada, right? So if you know that this is the song that your life is actually a reflection, just like when you go out into, the canyon, and or the top of the mountain, or even just a hall, like a concert hall, or somewhere where you can get that sense of vastness, um, different degrees of kind of what you call reverb or echo sound effect, right? Uh, you know, you're going to start to delve deeper into that realization, in that sense of like you being the one not only speaking the word, the resonance, but receiving then the reflection in some way, shape, or form through your experience, right? Okay, so just remember that, right? So we talk about, sort of the concept of like that whole thing with The Secret, the series, right? Or manifesting, right? Or, even prayer in a certain form, prayer with works, with faith together, to get, you know, a balance, because the only thing people really want to manifest is balance, but they might think, oh, something else is going to bring me that first, right? So, like, oh, money, that's going to bring me balance. Oh, name it. Okay, name it. It's not, it's, if it's outside of you, again, it's part of that reflection of actually where you're at internally. So, um, and there's a lot of places I could go with this right now, but one of the main things is that's what people are going to pick up on, whether it's in who you are, whether it's in relationships, how you relate to people. People are going to pick up on this alignment, this resonance, this sense of you being able to be comfortable in your own skin, and not like you're not one of these people that's most people. They're constantly worried about that thing out there, or that thing out there, or that thing out there. So Same thing with meditation. Instead of going out, you're coming back in, you're taking a breath, and then you actually step another layer back where you're now just watching the thoughts go by. You're watching your physical experience, the breath in, the breath out. So here in Colorado, I wasn't born here, but where I live now at the moment, it is a thinner atmosphere. So one of the things you often notice much more is your breath. So that's been very interesting. I've been out here quite a while, but it's you really still notice it. Even, you know, training. I was one thing I remember when I first came out here. I was young. I was playing hockey. We were doing training to come out and play one of the schools, CC. So it was cool. It was great. I just remember, even in top tier shape, you could feel the difference, and especially if you weren't used to it right away. Because either way, your body adapts, but there's still less oxygen. If that makes sense. The atmosphere, the pressure differentiation is another one. Um, so anyway, it kind of actually I think forces you to utilize energy sources better. It's just like, oh, if you train yourself, you can survive off less water than most people are used to, stuff like that. Uh, Even there's breatharians, people who are able to do these things as far as, you know, living off the energy of life, basically the environment around you, and how that's possible. But it is, if you look out there, you'll see people, and you'll see that throughout history, incredible things are possible. In fact, one of the defining things about human beings and human nature in this human story is that when things seem to be impossible, we usually break through, right? Or we break the threshold. And now we're at that point where AI is going to like move this process ahead in a way where humans are going to be like, oh, wow. Yeah, wow, wow, wow. So interesting time. And mainly, I want to also give you guys some insight about some of the other stuff we're going to cover. Definitely, if you're into more than just content, but we're going to also have a range of content, wellness network, alpha vitality and wellness. Um, like I said, I'm a musician and artist, I've mentioned before. So we're going to cross the boundaries here. We're going to go and, explore the creative potential. But, as per the challenges of an artist, we're also going to focus on how to get focused, how to be organized. And so as an artist, it's one of the hardest things to actually do is to monetize your art. But we're going to take it into the entrepreneurial field because it's also very pertinent to this modern time in terms of if you have a skill set, you probably have somebody who could benefit out there and they'd probably be willing to pay you. In fact, a lot of this money that's just going towards these outdated school systems should start redirecting towards what I'm going to say is more real education and sort of the more original way, which is like the master apprentice direct, even before even like early 1800s, before the beginning of the initial push of feminism as we know it today. um, world was kind of more, it was still just pretty much more of that. People were farmers many places in the world and still lived, slightly before the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, just more agriculture, rural, um, still simplistic kind of lives. And we know within American history, obviously we have to go back further and we have to look at both sides of American history in terms of like what was covered up and in terms of, what that era of history does when we're bringing it into the present moment in terms of how we can grow forward rather than stay stuck in cycles. And so again, check out the music, guys. Um, follow the channel, but mostly just yeah, just follow along. Check out some of my free offerings. You can read my book, Art and Science of Mindset, which is actually going to go over a lot of the whole mindset right behind a lot of this. And then we're going to move forward in terms of like I said, where we can take the creative side and help people learn how to develop those skill sets, monetize those skill sets if you are interested, excuse me, in becoming more involved in the creative side of the world. If you're like me, you want to get more into YouTube, yeah, let's just link up and I appreciate y'all's support as well. So thanks for following the channel. And I'm just getting started on this vision as well. It's been quite a decade of some transitions, a lot to share in terms of the learning side of life, but also a lot moving forward right now, especially things that are lining up. And in many ways, the business that I'm building right now is really based around something that just kind of came into fruition. When you're in the flow state, when you're in the alignment state, when you're in the divine receiving state, the divinely inspired state, and you're connected to who you feel yourself to be inside based upon your unique experiences, your unique life, then you can start to download the ways in which you're sharing to others becomes very, very helpful, valuable, important. That's what we're trying to expand so that if you feel like, and it's not for everybody, and I'm not going to say like, you know, who knows, like I said, how quickly AI, everything's going to shift, but there's no doubt AI is going to replace jobs in terms of things we're used to. So we have to go into the areas we're less used to, and that's going to be for a lot of people getting out of their comfort zone, getting better at connecting and finding who you are, finding your authentic self, your authentic voice, and learning how we can use these platforms to actually do something bigger than where we're at right now. The world it's going what I think is definitely through an evolutionary sort of awakening. Because people are going to talk deeply into the esoterics of it. And I think we're all going to wake up to a sense of like reality about reality that most people have no fucking clue why we're really here, how we got here, what this whole story of reality is. And that's okay because again, if we're in this coming of age process, you're right where you need to be. And so I think while we definitely are moving actually away from the sort of socialistic politics because people are becoming more empowered and without being too general because there's a lot of people who are becoming I think dumber, but on the other side I think there's actually a lot of people really accelerating, waking up, becoming the best version of them. That's going to help other people. And really right now we're going through a big transition for everyone. So that's the point is if you could look back into the past and see sort of the rate of change and progression just so linear, so mild, and then boom, you get to this time. And basically the year I was born was 1985. Many years I was like the computer generation begins. You know, the millennials kind of coming into full swing, yada yada. But it's an interesting time in that like I felt I was really still around right before the full explosion of technology, Y2K, post, you know, millennium where we are now, and a moment before that. So it was a really unique time. I feel like to be born because really, if you look at where things are going, we're going so far away from that. People already don't remember. And that's one of the things I'm going to talk about because it's phenomenal to me how much people are just glazed. For instance, you walk into your average job and people barely look at you. They barely look up. They certainly don't greet you. Many places you used to go to a business and they would say, hello, thanks for coming in. I'll be there shortly. I'll be right with you. These are not things that happen, guys, these days. Most people, it's just like the opposite. And I understand. I understand why there's a lot of people who don't want to work. And, but in some way, shape, or form, you always have to be in the right mindset in putting forth energy. I'm not going to say effort because hard work doesn't always make the most sense. In certain times, you have to work hard. Certain times, you have to work smart. In the end, as you get older, you want to work smarter. You don't want to beat yourself up. So, as an athlete, uh, you know, that's something that I would definitely say to young people. Take care of your body. Don't injure yourself. If you can help it, things happen, right? But and have that mindset as you get older to set yourself up to make it easier rather than harder. One of the things I got away from was that super athletic um, youth growing up, and so and for someone who's always been kind of people that are always maybe growing up being active and more in shape, you kind of sometimes don't realize that still happens, right? You lose track at some point, or life kind of knocks you off course. So right now we're definitely getting back to it and have been in that shift, back in action, and we're going to take it to a whole new level. But also, what I think is always made sense for me, because like I said, from the youngest of age, I had major muscle imbalances, major problems with training, major injuries for my whole life, due to sports, due to training, overtraining, working with trainers that didn't really have my best long-term insight maybe in mind, or just, that's just how things happen, right? But in ways I could look back and I could be like, wow, yeah, it's unfortunate. I was very young, and those things affect the trajectory of much more of my life. Moving on past that, in terms of, a lot of people don't understand physical pain really can fuck with your mental state and who you are as a person. So that's one of the things, actually, the reason I wrote the book that I wrote was to help people, sort of, for us to have a platform as human beings, as people, moving forward in a tumultuous time, different countries, different nations of people, different backgrounds, and it's one of the things that makes us beautiful. It's one of the things that I think people are going to be pretty, mind blown when they actually start to unravel how wild our true history really kind of is. And, which is sort of happening, and it's not necessarily fully agreed on, but sooner than later, we're going to just put the bigger pieces into place, right? And then from there, people are going to have a better idea. In other words, like the massive lies, the Darwinian, it's going to switch up, guys. It's going to switch up. Okay, it's going to switch up. People are going to be starting to dig into the nuances of who these people are, what they were saying, what was actually being told to you, why, the fact that you don't see animals out here turning into humans. Like, all right, guys, we're gonna end it there. Much love today. Thanks for tuning in. Just exploring, again, getting into the YouTube content, building this more raw, long form content for you, because that's obviously what's bigger now, and it helps to, as a human, make you just be more on your toes, more in the moment, more present. And also it comes through as authentic, which is what people are looking for. So that's why right now I'm not worried about everything being perfect. I'm worried about trying to get this out to you guys, get comfortable doing this more, and learn from that process myself and grow. It's not familiar to me at all. There's plenty of things am good at. Trust me, this is a new thing to me. So thank you guys again for any support, following along, just helping this channel grow. And I want to just bring a ton of cool content, insight, potentially build it to a podcast level, guests, the full 9 yards, travel, take you guys um, around to connect the dots on a deeper level as well, follow the journey, and as well to, like I said, connect on the side of like music, art. We're gonna, I have some super big visions on that side, and I really, really am gonna need help. So if you're a musician, an artist, a producer, anything, creative mind, uh, into tech, into um, development, marketing, putting together events, and much, much more. Wherever you're at, wherever you're from, all walks of life. Because if you have ambition, if you have drive, if you're interested in something bigger, right, then check it out. Stay tuned.